talk about...
We're here to answer some questions.
No, that's one thing we're not going to do. We're going to ask a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, welcome, and thank you for listening to After the Hype. I really wanted to say End of the Hype. I don't know why. I think it's just because when I talked about End of Watch on Facebook, I put After the Watch, and I was like, oh shit, that's just kind of bad self-promoting. Anyhow.
I did read that status update, and I was very confused.
I deleted it in shame today. I'm not joking, it's gone.
Do you think so?
No, it is. It's gone. Anyhow, so yes, thank you for joining us After the Hype. Today we're reviewing what I thought was going to be not only the best movie of the summer, but the best movie of the year. I was convinced. I didn't watch a single trailer. I was so amped for this movie. Mm-hmm. I could not have been more excited. And needless to say, I was wrong. And I can admit being wrong, because it's not the best movie of the year. It's not the worst, but it's kind of trash.
It's definitely disappointing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, especially with how good it should have been. Today we are joined by two new people. This will be the first time in a while that we're joined by new people, because we have a lot of repeating guests, like Tony. Fuck Tony.
Well, we had new people on last week.
We did have some new people on last week.
Yeah.
But we also had some repeaters.
It's true.
We have a lot of repeaters, so we're changing it up and bringing on some noobs. Today we have John Hardesty with us.
Hello.
He's a good friend, and then we have Graham Mason, who I've known for many, many a year.
Hello, that's me.
Lived with for many a year. And then, as always, we have Nick and myself, Bryan.
Yeah.
So how have you guys been? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been keeping busy, doing work stuff and art stuff.
Okay, what type of movies, games? Keep us updated. What have you been up to?
I've been playing LA Noire recently. Somewhat recently.
That's too bad.
And then, since it's October, I've been watching horror films. And then, for TV-wise, we've been watching Weeds. Just started to kind of go through, for me, rewatch.
Oh, okay.
Just because I wanted to see it again. And
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How was it the second time through?
so far, like, moments are surprising. I was like, I don't remember it being this good. At least in the first season. I was like, this is a really good moment. This is some great music selection. I don't remember this being the case, but then I thought about it, and I was like, well, those later seasons weren't. So,
Makes sense.
I did the same thing pretty recently, because I was trying to get ready to watch season 8, and then I just didn't watch it for some reason. I still have it. I will watch it, but I just never got around to it. But I did the same thing to where I went back to season 1, and as I'm rewatching, I'm like, this is why I got obsessed with this show, because it was really good in the beginning.
Yeah, and as we're getting near to the end of the first season, I'm like, I do remember shotgunning all these episodes in a row, like 5, 6 in a row.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this was why.
Yeah, it was really good. Graham, I know you're, he's definitely my busiest friend. He does a lot of things all the time. But what have you been up to media-wise?
Kind of going back and getting into series and stuff and rewatching. I was rewatching X-Files there for a good while.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a little cheesy. Did not age well.
A little cheesy, yeah. Good to see the black goo come back in some recent stuff. And actually just kind of catching up on a lot of series that I missed while not having cable and stuff like that. But,
So I've been watching, I caught up to season 3 in Parks and Rec, and I've been watching it week by week ever since that. So I'm good with that show. But then, I've been on just catching up and seeing movies kind of on a rampage this past week. I watched all of season 4 Breaking Bad.
Sweet.
That was pretty good. It was a little overhyped to me. People made it sound like it was the greatest season of any TV show. And it wasn't, but the ending of season 4 was fantastic. And I'm going to start trying to watch season 5 so I can catch up.
So, I haven't watched shit since we last recorded a podcast. I've been exhausted, but I am going to promote End of Watch again, because not enough people have fucking seen that movie, and it's really good. And I don't think I'm over-promoting it. I'm not promising anything that's not in the movie, but it is a really good movie.
Although the scene with dinosaurs was pretty great.
Oh, man. When they shot, 14 velociraptors in the middle of L.A., it really felt like I was a police officer at that moment.
But was that shooting with, shaky cam, too?
Oh, of course.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
the guns are strapped to... Okay, so here's the premise of the movie.
It's
guns
a sequel of Battle LA, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the cameras are strapped to the guns, but the guns are strapped to these fake arms that are jutting out of the chests of the police officers, right? And those fake arms are strapped to the hearts of the police officers, and if the arms are cut off, they die. That's the whole premise of the movie. There are dinosaurs. At one point, they reference Godzilla, which is pretty cool, to all the fanboys of the end of Watch. I don't care anymore about this.
On a side note, though, you and I need to talk afterwards for a great movie idea.
Nobody steal this. It's on tape. Nobody can steal it.
Trademark,
now.
Creative Commons.
Copyright.
And I haven't been playing shit for video games either. I've been working, but I feel like as
Isn't
a
it
running
boring?
joke, what?
Isn't work boring?
It's so boring. No video games.
You can't play video games?
Can't
I
watch
play video games at
movies. I wish I could,
Oh,
but
wow.
I decided that I'm going to give Bryan an update to my Harvest Moon farm every week until
God
Bryan
damn it.
kills me. So this week,
Update Bryan.
still in the middle of spring, guys, so turnips are in season. I have about 4 patches of turnips. I just bought new property, and I'm going to set up a barn. How fucking excited are you guys for me right now? That's it. That's the update of my farm. Next week, new update.
On a scale of 1 to 5 for excitement, I'm probably a -1.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a fucking 10. I'm up there. I'm up there. I'm really amped. I'm not gonna lie. I came home from work and I was like, I could sit down and watch TV, or I could play Harvest Moon. I was like, I'm gonna play some Harvest Moon. It's pretty great. You guys just don't get it. I'm gonna end every single rant about Harvest Moon with you guys just don't get it, because it's true. Nobody else gets it.
This week on After the Watch, we're going to be talking about Harvest Moon.
Ah, it's so good. You guys, just give it a shot. Okay, so as you guys know, and by I mean you guys, I'm talking about the viewers / listeners. We're talking about the movie Prometheus tonight, which I've been excited to talk about because I've wanted to rewatch it, and I've specifically not rewatched it because of the podcast. And I've also wanted to talk about it because it is like a contentious movie. Like, I feel like some people either really liked it, or at least liked it, or didn't like it, or really didn't like it. I don't feel like there's a lot of a gray area in this movie.
Isn't that kind of the first movie this year that's had that strong or divisive of a reaction, too?
I would
At least
say
like
so.
Spider-Man.
But Prometheus came out
this
before
came
Spider-Man
before.
did.
Oh, I thought you were saying it's the only movie.
First.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, for sure. And especially for a summer movie. I mean, this movie had... If you polled people before this movie came out, and not just film students, but just people in general, the trailer for this movie got people pretty amped up.
Like I was saying earlier, I thought it was going to be the best of the year.
Yep.
And I love the trailer. And I still stand by the trailer. I mean, I stand by the trailer like I stand by the trailer for Sin City, which is also a phenomenal trailer for a movie that kind of didn't live up to what I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
That being said, I still like both of those movies, but they are like a problem of the idea of a trailer in general. Trailer's phenomenal, but does it really promise what that movie that trailer promises, I guess? So, I don't know. To start off this podcast, I walked out of the theater talking about the hype after, the whole trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer in a while, go watch the trailer and then think about like how you felt the first time you watched it. But like, I walked out of that movie and I still liked it. Like, I mean, it wasn't what I expected, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was bad.
Yeah.
I
No,
walked
me
out.
too.
Yeah, I walked out defending it, and then by the end of that night, condemning it.
There was a similar reaction. I was defending it. Then there was one crucial element that we'll probably discuss later.
Yeah.
Once it was revealed to me, my defenses were dropped.
Yeah, it's just like I started out like, what are you talking about? It's great. I loved it. Except for that. Oh, and I didn't like that part. Oh, and this other part that happened, I wasn't a big fan of that. And you know what? Fuck it. That movie's awful.
Yeah.
I'm angry now.
I didn't get that bad until actually just now, until we rewatched it, and I was like, wait, no, it's just not good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, immediately afterwards I was like, okay, and then I try to explain it, and they explain the connections, and then all of the things that don't connect, I'm like, well, it's not really supposed to be, a prequel of what they said it was, but wasn't, but who really knows of, whatever. But the prequel, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, no one can see this.
I did.
Yes,
I saw it.
Brian, thank you. That's how we connect.
You guys
But
have
it
been living
doesn't.
together for so long.
Yeah, you get me. You just get me. But yeah, and that was the cool thing. It was like one of the reasons was like one of the reasons for the hype for this movie was it's like, okay, it's going to be a prequel for Aliens, but not really. And so that was the whole explanation of like the things that didn't connect. It was like, oh, okay, well, it's not really supposed to connect. But then everything that did connect, it was like, but it connects so well in those areas. So I was like, why didn't they? I was like, and it just got frustrating. And now it's like, well, fuck it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I like about it is it's so pretty.
It's so pretty.
It is so
Yeah,
pretty.
that does need to go on record.
It is gorgeous.
It's probably the prettiest film this year.
Except for the
sure.
practical effects.
And I'll say the master. The master's
Some
prettier.
some of the practical effects really work, but I would say most don't.
The
That
was
we're
Guy
talking
Pearce,
about
wasn't it?
specifically the makeup on Guy Pearce. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get too far into this,
Astonishing. Okay.
I need to hit my key points of the actual hype because we're starting to get out of the hype of it. And I want to finish it off. With
That's
it. No,
fair.
it's okay. So this movie, as we all know, it made a shit ton of money, which I actually didn't remember it making as much as it did. But for an R-rated science fiction movie, this fucking killed.
Yeah.
So R-rated science fiction, the only other movie right now that's R-rated science fiction is Looper, and that's only doing okay, which it should do better. Go see Looper; it's fantastic.
Yep.
It's It's still building its legs. It's
You don't like Looper?
I'm not a fan.
I'm not.
We'll get into that next time.
Yeah, we'll review
Easily.
that eventually.
Yeah.
because-
after the drama. Hold the phone.
yeah.
Sorry, guys. I just grabbed Bryan's shirt from across the room. If you guys missed that.
Sure.
Anyhow, so this movie it was made for 130 million. It made 126 million. Just domestically across the globe, it made 402 million. So yeah, I'd say it did pretty well, especially for an R-rated science fiction movie.
Yeah.
The
which,
key
you know,
words: R-rated and science fiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen. Like
No.
$400 million for R-rated and science fiction. The both of those
At least
together.
not now.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. So that's really cool that it did that, and I like that it did that, especially because the only other movie that should be doing that is Looper, because it's one of the greatest movies of the year. Graham.
Shut your mouth.
On Metacritic, it did really well. It got a 65, 24 positive, 17 mixed, only 1 negative. So I mean, we're gonna get into this and see if maybe some of our minds that are kind of, we did just watch this movie and walking out of it going, oh, I was defending it for so long and all my defenses were just blown up in my face because I was wrong. But maybe not.
And this would probably be a good chance too, though, to unpack some of the things that were actually kind of good
Yeah.
too. Because
I'm
that's
gonna
gonna
I'm gonna read one of the reviews here really quick. That I think actually this is, I usually read the ones that I kind of go, what the fuck, but this one I like. This is from San Francisco Chronicle, Mick LaSalle. Try as it might, the movie is hardly profound, and the murky atmosphere and leaden pace drag things down. I can actually agree with that one.
Yeah.
Because usually I like to pick out the ones that we can kind of really make fun of. I don't remember which the first one I did that for, but yeah, this one in particular, I think that's actually pretty spot on, because it really does try to say something, but then it forgets what it's talking about, like everything Lindelof writes, which we'll get into.
Well, and I have to say, before we start the podcast and really start jumping into it.
Oh, did you record?
Oh, shit! For a second, I'm not gonna lie, you got me. I was like, did I? And I was like, oh, I did. I'm such a fucking idiot. No, I am going to reluctantly defend this movie the entire time. And it's because I still like it, and and the reason why, and I thought about this before we came in, and I was like, I kind of decided that I was going to reluctantly defend it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first rated R movie that I remember really, like, enjoying, if that makes sense. My first 2 rated R movies were the original Wicker Man and Starship Troopers, which I enjoyed, but not for the reasons that you should probably be enjoying them. But like this is the first movie that I really like felt like holy shit, and it really got me excited for film. I'm not saying this movie. I'm talking about the original Alien. I'm sorry, I'm not 5 years old
You
yet.
should definitely clarify.
Yeah. Alien was the first movie that I really saw and got me interested just in the idea of film, like as a storytelling device. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm defending Prometheus in spite of Prometheus, but because I liked its father or mother, parent.
Mother, I mean,
Cousin.
Okay.
the cousin you think is hot over on the other side of the room. You're like, she's my cousin.
You could argue either or, but I think that, like, for me in my head, it's like Alien is clearly one parent. Aliens is the second. Well, but like this one clearly takes after the first parent, but it is very much so like a spoiled child.
I would say more Alien and Alien Resurrection, because they're really good parts and really shitty parts.
I agree.
But, I mean,
AVP Requiem.
That's
not. Those
I
are
liked the second one.
That's Uncle.
but it is very much so like
That's
an action
Uncle
movie.
Steve that you don't invite anymore because you drank too much of your moonshine.
No, this exactly.
moonshine, you
This
actually
really
like?
felt like a spoiled child of like a prominent couple in a sense.
Yeah.
Like it just feels in the realm, obviously, but
When you divvy up the films, you're gonna have like Alien in your discussion and Prometheus. Then you're gonna have these other ones over here: Aliens, Alien 3, and then Resurrection, because those are different.
AVP and AVPR. You're forgetting some.
We don't talk about that. We don't
Why
talk.
not? Come on.
So both of them in theaters. AVPR twice. I'm not joking.
That was one of them.
But like, Alien and Prometheus will come up more. Like you're going to compare them more. They have a lot of ties together.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Versus the other ones, whereas you got Aliens, which is an action film with sci-fi,
Yeah.
and you've got 2 horror sci-fi films.
Yeah.
And even okay,
And 2
this is the
great
one
comedies.
time that I'm going to concede in this entire podcast.
Mhm.
It's barely a horror film.
Yeah, barely.
Like kind of.
It follows more of the scientific,
Well,
like
were you saying
why,
Prometheus is
the
a
why,
horror
the
film?
how. What's that?
Prometheus is not a horror film at all.
It has horrific elements.
Okay,
whereas
no,
Alien was more
Horrific and
horror.
horror are different. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
there's no...
There's enough horror in there for somebody to make a very weak argument.
No, because
well, think of it this way, like,
a
both-
horror movie will have a wuss walking out of the theater going, that scared the shit out of me. No one ever walked out of this movie going, I was so creeped out.
No, like both films made a
Yeah.
decision.
No. I
Other
think I
than
can
the very
defend.
specific moments of the arm and the,
that's not horror,
the
that's
face.
just
No.
gross.
I'm not defending that. I'm agreeing.
But
with
like,
you.
When
a
I say-
wuss walked out of that film, and I'm volunteering here. A wuss, me, walked out of that film
remember
going, "Wow!" Like, and I was
only
legitimately
thing you were
creeped
talking
out.
about.
Yeah, it's the only thing I was talking about because you rode home with me, and I was just like, "That fucking shit was ridiculous."
cut
Because
it off.
that's all I thought about, and it's all I thought about up until the pool party, which Brian had. Long story short, Brian had a pool party, and I defended this movie for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
But like,
While
Drunk.
drinking nothing but like straight rum.
oh my god. Great idea at the time.
But then compare the 2 films. Like Prometheus takes the science fiction route, the asking the questions, whereas you've got Alien, which has some of that in the background, but is more of kind of in a really crude way slasher film.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Alien,
so
asks, Alien asks questions like Dark Souls tells a story. Like, it's there,
Right,
but
right.
you have to look for it.
You have to unpack
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I mean,
But
like,
Prometheus is very, very, very focused on the why, almost to a detriment. It's like the why,
Al-
the
like,
beginnings,
almost
the traces.
annoyingly, almost annoyingly in your face. I just want to ask him why I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, the whole movie is a gargantuan daddy complex.
And it's those
Yeah.
2 characters who I didn't like at all. Those
No.
are like some of the weakest characters in the entire thing. Other than the extremely weakest character who was
well,
co-pilot number 2.
specifically talk about who the characters you're talking about are, because I think we all know because we talked
Oh.
about it in the movie. But we're talking about
the scientists. The,
Shaw
suppose,
and Halloway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Suppose
or
that would
Charles or
be a
Chuck,
good time
whatever
to-
his name is.
Probably a good time to then
Chuck.
describe what actually happened.
Yeah, I was just
Oh, yeah.
going to say, we should probably actually run through what actually happened in
Because
this
they're
movie
like
before
pilot
we-
number
yeah.
2. I've never seen this movie. What
Yeah.
are you talking about?
before we
Okay,
get-
so
I don't watch anything that you guys talk about.
Yeah.
But
So-
since Nick
Tell
is
me
the
more.
one, since Nick is going to be the one who's defending this, I don't
Sure.
want to say pile because it's not, but this
It's not.
This
thing. We'll
okay.
call it a thing.
This
Awesome extended trailer.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a great trailer for a movie that I hope comes out at some point.
I think this is a very apt description, but it's also very sad. This disappointment.
Oh, that's sad.
I know, but it is true.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
If you say
Oh,
disappointment, I'm going to
yeah.
say confusion.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
confused.
Sure.
Yeah.
My feelings are on different areas.
Sure.
Okay, so run it down, Nick. What happened in this
Okay, to
masterpiece?
sum up, basically, let's sum it up like in a concise way, and let's not go through like I'm not going to go through it in exactly the way the movie does, but I'm going to try and sum it up in a way that's not going to confuse the people who haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
Basically, some scientists discovered this constellation that's painted on all of sort of these different caves or like on slabs or whatever all over the world, that in all all of these constellations, like slabs and paintings and shit, basically, like, don't correlate. Like, the Hawaiians never talk to the fucking people in Scotland, like, all this sort of stuff, and all through different time periods. And we're talking about, like, thousands of years that this constellation pops up every once in a while. So these scientists discover it and basically run it by a billionaire, and the billionaire goes, hey, that's an awesome idea. Let's go out to where this star is. Let's fund this expedition. Let's spend $1 trillion. Is that what it was? $1 trillion setting this up. So they go into cryogenesis, go out there, and basically once they're out there, explain to the crew that they set up what the mission is. And what the mission is to try and figure out who created us, for lack of a better term. And as shit goes on, the creators they decide are called engineers, and like
not space jockeys,
not space albinos, not
not Dr. Manhattan,
not Dr. Manhattan, not any of this stuff. And basically, shit happens, and we're going to go through it from there. But that is the setup of the movie. Now, granted, like there are things that I'm leaving out that we'll go over later, but at the same time, that for lack of, I guess, like more time, and for you not seeing the movie, audience, that's what happens in the movie.
There's kind of a traditional sci-fi setup. They go somewhere, and then the complications arise because of tinkering, and then they have to make their way out, and they're faced with a moral dilemma.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. I mean,
whoa. Yeah, that's the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dissect this thing. Let's see what we. So the movie, like, it starts with this really kind of like really beautiful landscape shots and all these shots, what do you want to call them? And it's really, really gorgeous. It looks like a screensaver that I love to have in my computer.
Yep.
All this stuff.
First half hour of the movie.
And then it starts with Dr. Manhattan, the engineer.
Albino Dr. Manhattan.
Albino Dr. Manhattan. All these things that Nick just said.
Yep.
They were not. And he sits on the cliffs of what looks like Niagara Falls or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And he drinks the black goo and he dissolves and basically creates life on Earth.
And the black goo being from X-Files.
Yes, it really looks like the same shit. But yeah, so that's when the movie starts, and that's quite honestly that's where I have my very first question of, like, it just kind of seems, it's an odd way to start the movie of this guy's killing himself to start life, and then just knowing that this guy's going to be an enemy later in the movie of, why do they do this? And, like, that is, like, the first question that they try to set up. Is like, it is the question of the movie of why do they create us? And it's a question they don't even attempt to answer throughout the entire movie. They keep asking it and just piling away at it. But if you're going to start the movie with that question, that should be the question at the end of the movie you at least hint at answering or give us an answer to. And they don't. There's a lot of fanboys who have come up with the answer of they created life to be able to make the best.
But they had to come up with
possible.
it.
Yeah, so they had to, so they can make the best xenomorphs possible because humans will make the best xenomorphs. But they never actually say that in this movie. Mm-hmm. That is a fanboy answer.
Yeah.
I do think that out of all the questions that this movie very half-assedly asks, I do think that's the one through context clues that you can kind of easily get to. And I'm talking about the singular that you can actually get to, because it's like there are enough context clues, discounting the end of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. But there are enough context clues within the basic setup of the movie to be like, okay, like this guy killed himself to create life, but only to create life in order to create a weapon. I mean, like you said, it is a fanboy response, and they do not explain it in the movie.
Nope.
That is fine. And it is like, there's, you know, like it's a shitty way to do it, but I think that there are enough context clues to be like, oh, okay, like I can piece this together, but at the same time, you're having to piece it together.
Yeah.
So.
And it's one of those things where, like, okay, so we're creating a weapon for what? Like, there's just so much that they don't even remotely attempt to answer in this thing. And I think that's where a lot of people start really complaining of this thing, is just, there's so many questions in this thing. And it's kind of like, that's where you just, immediately, the ugly head of Damon Lindelof will just rear and just go, oh my god. Like, I was on board with Lost, and I will still defend Lost. I love that show. But that show had been so many questions interlaid, just that was the show, that now when you see everything else he writes, it's like, oh my god, just lay off the questions, man.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, this movie thematically, with the way they set it up as far as, like, the create, you know, like, this guy basically killing himself to create life, is an interesting thematic element. And on top of that, like you pointed out that he becomes the enemy later, that it's like, oh, that's a really interesting idea. What hates us and kind of like looks down on us also created us, which has got to be like, and they mention that a lot in the movie. If that was the one question throughout this movie, then this would be a stronger movie.
Oh yeah.
If we had picked one spine to run through it instead of like 30, then it would be a more interesting discussion to talk about.
And you could tell it already had the groundwork to pick one spine, stay with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The death life cycle, very interesting. It can hold its own movie.
Exactly.
And has in various other formats.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
It almost seems like, just at its basic level, there wasn't enough faith in any one of the individual spines on their own.
Yeah, that's definitely
which is disappointing. It is very disappointing because like that clear. I mean, that's the start of the movie. That's like throughout most of the movie, and you can even keep the kind of goofy subplot of her faith, which is kind of arbitrary throughout the entire movie.
Which is it probably, if they were going to pursue it, they could have really layered that on in a complex way with the death life cycle, not the death life cycle, but
and it just feels like that.
too. I
Yeah.
mean,
Either
there
death
was
or
an
you're
old
alive.
guy in there
Yeah.
who did have hearing problems.
That is the spine of the movie. But like, there's so much crap layered around that
Yeah.
it just.
I mean, it's like they just kept on adding, like, with a twist, with a twist,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
twist. Or, you know, just more layers. You're like, oh, yeah, this way we're going to be really, 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 really smart. And you're like, well, no, you're just coming up with more bullshit weirdness.
what's that dish at like TGI Fridays, that onion thing where it's just like piled on and on, like the fried onion thing?
I was thinking the bloomin' onion.
The blooming onion,
okay.
yeah. After,
That's
it's
Outback
like
Steakhouse.
yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that
but-
Outback Steakhouse?
All right.
It's
I mean,
a
I'm not going to hold
chain.
it against you, but... I'm a vegetarian, and I knew that, so...
okay, all right. They're all kind of alike. So
I mean,
They're pretty much the same.
the basic point to that event is supposed to be that it's just, after a while it's too much. It's
No,
just
yeah.
too much.
It feels
You
like
get to the bottom of that and you're like, I hurt.
I
makes
just
sense.
ate 4 pounds of onions.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
add another example. It feels like that KFC bowl with like the mashed potatoes.
Oh,
don't
and
you
then the
dare
corn-
insult that bowl.
I'm
That is
go-
a great bowl.
I'm not insulting it, but that bowl is
Don't get
It's a
Absolutely.
complicated bowl that doesn't need to be.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we are eating all those bowls right now.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
I'm saying-
That's my diet.
Yeah.
Stop that diet.
It's my breakfast, lunch,
Stop
and
that
dinner.
diet now.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I've spoken to every cashier at KFC, and they assure me that I am not going to die.
You know, you should order 2, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because they keep
Twice
really
as
well.
much.
Yeah, they all have to
Because
go
they're
to.
not actually food.
Wait,
I store it in more potatoes.
no,
More mashed
wait,
potatoes, that's
guys.
what I
Serious
store.
question.
Potatoes is a preservative.
They're not nutritionists.
No, they're not.
They don't
No.
go to college or anything.
Well,
Well,
they're not necessarily
not yet.
paid nutrition.
Even though it is kitchen fresh chicken.
not chicken fresh kitchen.
Okay, we're moving on from that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So after we find out that guy killed himself, and we kind of move on, and then we're on the planet, and this is where like we're gonna start. I'm basically gonna try to pick this thing off from all the complaints that I've heard, and just kind of move our way through it.
Yeah.
So the first major complaint that most people have with this thing is why did the guy die to make weapons that they don't ever explain. The next one that always comes up is the guy they bring on the ship. Okay, I'm going to backtrack for a second. First off, they have a weapons expert. They're going into a completely unknown spacecraft. They don't know it's a spacecraft yet, but they're going to a completely unknown world. Everything, they don't know what the hell they're going to find. And they go, we're going to bring the guns. No, you can't bring the guns. Why? I'm the weapons expert. That's what I'm supposed to do. Oh, we don't need guns. We'll be fine.
We're scientists.
And you just,
And psychics.
and I just remember everyone in my theater, the first time I saw it, just kind of going, what?
Yeah.
Like, you just hear everyone just going,
Especially because right when they fly in, they see the greater design of this entire planet.
Yeah.
Like the runway and all of the, other satellite spots around the whole thing. So it's like, obviously they know how to design stuff. Obviously they're an intelligent life form, which
Yeah.
we knew going there, blah, blah. But it's like, you have absolutely no idea what you're going into.
Yeah, there's-
And in any other science fiction movie, they're like, oh, you bet your ass we're bringing all of the guns.
Yeah.
And then to think, okay, the one weapon that they use throughout the whole thing is a flamethrower.
Yeah.
yeah.
Really?
And they have guns. They fire them.
Oh well. Okay. Here's
It's like,
the-
I understand,
I
like,
think-
sterilization and stuff like that.
but okay.
Shoot a-
there's no
shoot a
defending.
laser.
There's no defending this.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to defend it, then you clearly haven't thought this out.
You've drank the Kool-Aid.
You don't need, and here's the thing, you could have solved that specific problem with nothing. You didn't need guns in that first sequence. Just have her be upset about it, and then that's fine. Just leave it at that.
Or just don't bring it up.
Yeah.
If they had never mentioned, we're going to bring the guns, we don't need guns. If they just cut that part out, I don't think anyone would have ever gone, I would have brought a gun. Just saying. And if they had, they would have been pissed off about it.
Exactly.
Because it wouldn't have seemed like a mistake, which it comes off as.
And don't have an effing weapons expert.
Yeah. Who,
I
by the
forgot.
way...
Wait, what's your expertise?
It's weapons, but I'm a fucking idiot and I only brought pistols, flamethrowers, and a goddamn shotgun. One goddamn shotgun.
Yeah.
That's it. Not a
wouldn't
rifle. Not like...
I know tons of guys who like love guns and all this shit. They find any excuse to carry a weapon with them at all times.
Oh,
Going
yeah.
to a new planet? Yeah, let's have more guns.
Yeah, that's one of those excuses that I use all the time.
Yeah.
It's
Going
like,
to the
you would at least-
KFC? I'm bringing a gun.
Yeah.
I gotta order 2 of them motherfucking bowls. No,
Give
he
me
would
the
have-
bull!
He would at least have a pistol or a derringer on his ankle. He would have something.
Yeah.
Just
A
something.
knife. A knife.
A knife?
Yeah.
Anything.
Which would be worthless, but at least he had
Okay,
it.
to be
See,
fair,
I would rather
they
have him
bring a
have a
knife.
knife.
They do.
because they cut it off,
Yeah.
and it doesn't end well.
No.
But
And
we'll
bags.
get to that. Oh,
Yes.
God.
They have vacuum safe bags. So.
Why do they have that? Why do they bring
A big one to fit a huge effing head in it.
No, you know what I would have loved? Cut out the scene of the weapons expert guy.
Okay.
Cut in the scene of the lady bringing the fucking gigantic bag. What would you need this for? You have no idea
This
what we're
actually
gonna
reminds
find.
me of packing
I am
for
a
trips.
vacuum safe expert.
This reminds me of packing for trips or going grocery shopping. I'm always ill-prepared,
Yes.
bring the wrong bags
Yep.
Yes.
for it, and I always miss something when I leave.
So what you're saying is that this girl would be an excellent grocery shopper.
Yes.
Fucking dynamite grocery shopper.
Yep. She brought a mattress bag.
Yeah, that's really what it was. It was ginormous.
It was huge because the head was the size of the people. Unless people
phenomenal.
are very small.
I don't think we're giving her enough credit. I think we're making fun of her, but I really am impressed.
Wait, hold on. She is pretty buff by carrying
Yes.
That gargantuan fucking head?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
She
she's pretty
carried it. She
That's-
carried the hell out of it.
Well, let alone the air compressor necessary to vacuum the bag.
I mean, look, this lady is a hero. That's basically what we're saying.
Sigourney Weaver, watch out.
Oh my god.
She couldn't carry nearly the shit.
All she can do is show needless ass crack before getting her ass handed to her by an alien. Anyhow, so after that one big problem, you're followed up by what is most people's biggest complaint in the whole movie, and I I agree. The guy you bring to build your maps gets fucking lost. His whole reason for being there
worst.
is
Whoa.
a geologist
Wait a minute.
/ map maker.
It's a secret, advertisement for Lost.
Oh, there you go.
But that raises a lot of other questions.
Oh, the questions.
so many.
Especially after the ending.
All the questions.
No,
But-
this is the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, because, okay. And I tried to, I really tried. And I was with you,
Yeah.
Mike. I really tried to find excuses of okay, so well, maybe this, maybe that. No.
What was
'Cause
your defense?
Well, okay, so here's what I thought. Okay, so he has the pups thing that he sends out to make a map.
These
of
little
this whole thing.
map-making balls that can, guide
Right.
themselves through this place.
Let alone, he should have the receiver to send all the information to him in that huge box carrying the pups. But maybe he doesn't. Okay, so all of the information is sent to the ship.
That is they're in radio contact with.
Herein lies the problem. So all the information is now being interpolated and stuff like that and putting together on the ship. Okay, so he doesn't have the information on him personally. Understood. Okay, and then further it goes on, and then I'm like, okay, and then the storm comes in and they can't obviously send the new information in when he gets lost. It's like, but then they're in constant radio contact.
Yep.
And if you listen to the audio, it is 100% clear.
Yeah.
There isn't.
And they
anything.
even try to throw in that line of, it was a storm, so we haven't been in that best contact. Like, have you seen what we're looking at? They're looking at a pile of dead engineers.
Yeah.
And he's like, sorry,
And it's
bro.
in full HD.
Yeah.
Like, he's watching it on a 65-inch screen.
It's
There's
honestly
one-
the best HD I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was better than the other Blu-ray of the entire movie that we were watching.
Yeah.
The my defense was that before we got to this sequence was like, he doesn't get lost. I forgot that he got lost. So that was my defense.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially when the geologist or the biologist comes around, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
we've been here before. Talking to him.
Well,
Yeah.
Not as if it was the geologist
It's okay,
or the biologist
because-
that got lost. He's like, dude, I've seen this rock before. How does he know that?
Yeah.
Why didn't the...
Wait, I mean, you can discount the biologist because he's a biologist. He doesn't know
And-
rocks.
And the biologist is happily the dumbest person on the whole ship.
I'm fine with him being dumb. I'm not fine with the... Okay.
The groundwork
here's-
was set for him to be dumb.
Here's
That's
my...
true.
Here was my biggest problem with the movie first time watch, right? Loved Mohawk Guy. Mohawk Guy, by the way, geologist,
Fifield.
Fifield. Kind of a
Oh.
shitty name, but regardless.
Yeah. Fifield.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness. I like rocks.
He's super awesome, though. Like,
Super
he's
cool.
Super cool. And
Clearly...
has a fucking head tattoo,
Oh.
has a mohawk,
So
has a
cool.
ridiculous beard.
Has a
big,
bomb built
bushy
into
beard.
his...
He
Yeah.
could have
He
eaten
smokes
these
in his
creatures.
effing helmet.
Yeah.
He's
And-
so cool.
And on top of that, the entire movie, the first person in the entire film to generate real intelligence. And we're talking about, hey, you guys, you're fucking stupid. I'm going to leave. Oh, I was like, I am so on board with this character right now. First time through this movie. Awesome. Then he gets lost. Here's the problem. And here's the problem with the lost thing, right?
You said lost twice.
Graham was going through it, and it was like, okay, but before the storm comes, they get lost. Chronologically speaking, they get lost before anything could possibly go wrong.
And the map is
That's
already
like
finished.
me walking out of this room, and somehow, as soon as I exit that thing, they cut to me in Chicago. And me going,
Well,
yeah, I don't know. And you going, we've seen this building before, and me going, I'm not here to look at buildings, even though that's my job.
Yeah. Well, and then the biologist's reason for leaving is, life form. I'm fucking out of here. That's your job.
Okay, I can actually defend him.
Oh, please.
Okay, please do. Will do.
My pleasure.
He clearly, his character's set up to be like kind of...
I don't get
Not
paid
just-
enough for this shit.
No, that's the geologist, for
Oh,
sure.
right. Sorry.
I know. Biologist, you've got red on you, which is what he's going to be referred to the entire time, because
is
it's the same guy.
Do we know his name?
No.
Or just
Red.
gonna call him
He
Red?
just said
Red.
you got red on
You've
you.
got red on you.
Red on you.
I
First
Look
name
at
you.
IMDb,
First
man.
name you.
But he clearly, they established through like all of his introductory scenes as wanting to be like friends, right? So, and this is conjecture, kind of like first year out of college, wants to kind of prove himself, clearly wants to latch on to what is clearly the coolest motherfucker on the ship besides Idris Elba, who's the captain of the ship. So he's like, I want to be friends with that guy. So he, like a cool, actually I should say, an uncool dude tries to latch onto him. So he leaves because he wants to be friends with geologist guy.
Mhm.
Granted, relatively flimsy excuse, but somewhat defensible. Geologist getting lost, completely indefensible.
I'm just gonna stop you because you're saying that it's defensible because he leaves because he wants to be friends with the big dude. That's fine for his character.
Yes.
That's fine for his character.
Exactly.
But every other character there, the people who are in charge of this mission, who have the biologist with them, is like, "I'm gonna go back to the ship." He's technically their employee, and they should go, "No, you're fucking not. Look at the dead body that you're here for."
Yeah.
And this,
And no one even tries to stop it.
That's
Or
a
no
that's a
money at all.
Oh
which
my
is
God.
what they used in Alien. It was like, no, we're out of here. We're out of here. It's like, that's
You're not
fine.
getting paid.
You can forfeit. You're forfeiting all of your money.
Okay, so fuck it.
And then
I'm
it's like, well,
stuck.
fuck it. Then I'm here.
And
And he's just like,
Yeah,
and this
I'm
is
out.
a systemic problem throughout the entire movie. Like, there's so many times where people are like, for a movie like this, there should be a hilarious amount of pulling rank, and this movie has zero. Like, I'm not saying that it's
They
a
have
good plot device.
They have one instance where they pull rank, and it's when she doesn't let him back on the ship when he's dying.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
that's also a sign of intelligence, which this movie
Yes.
has very few amounts of.
I did actually
Yeah.
cheer
Yes.
when she did not let him come back and she fried him.
Yeah.
Like,
but the exact same situation happened in Alien.
Yeah. A lot of the scenes that are in, I wouldn't say a lot of, but the scenes where somebody actually shows a fair amount of intelligence are rehashings or rewritings of scenes that happened in Alien.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Which were the best scenes.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of what else we should move on to. I mean, after that, like, you can go into the whole, like, we could talk about it for hours. We could talk about how he was afraid of a dead body, but loved a clearly dangerous snake that looked like a cobra about to eat him. That does eat him.
Yeah.
And you can
But
talk
the
about...
dead body was big.
Yes.
That's true. The dead body was big, but it
And
also
that's-
wasn't rearing its head at you and hissing at you.
But though
was
that,
cute.
But since we've already been talking for so long, I want to start hitting on some of the really important stuff. Like, I want to talk about David, because David was the one thing in this movie that, although he's, in my opinion, the number one redeemable thing of this movie, if not only because it's Michael Fassbender playing him, but the character David
Is
solid as a rock.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Like, and it is the one reason why I don't regret spending the $24 I just spent to
No.
watch this movie, because he is so good in this movie, and my second time through it just confirmed that the character David is great.
I wrote down my third note in here is David's the protagonist of this movie, right?
He is, yeah.
Like, clearly, 100%.
Because the girl, like, we're not even really mentioning the girl or the other guy, because they don't really, they're just kind of there,
They're
just
just
letting
there.
shit happen to
They're
them.
the
And I
catalyst.
have,
That was it.
Yeah.
two
to
huge
be
things,
honest.
two huge bones to pick with this movie, and they basically revolve around those two characters.
Yeah.
But, like, David is easily the most fascinating part of this movie.
He's almost like the one thing they truly thought through from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
Which makes me think is the one thing Damon Lindelof didn't have a hand in,
Yeah.
would be my guess.
It's got to be.
He knocks on your door a week later. Dude, that was my idea too, you asshole.
I do know what Starbucks he goes to. That's right. I know where he is.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
I do think that David's character, like, out of all the character introductions, right? Like, the character introductions to the two scientists who are pretty fucking stupid. I like how I said I'm going to defend this movie. I'm defending as best as I can.
If that's defense.
That's.
Yeah.
But
You're
it's
never going to be my
I can't
lawyer.
lie. I can't lie.
See, I'm not. I want to say that Bryan did not kill Brad, but you know he kind of stabbed him in the throat,
Yeah.
and you know I just saw it with my own eyes. But you know,
Actually
what?
killed him.
Yeah.
We can't say that maybe he was sick.
Maybe he was.
I'm not saying there's video evidence against my client,
But I was
I'm just
recording.
saying that it might be in my car. I don't know. I can't lie, guys. I'm sorry. Just look at Bryan in my mouth. I'm so sorry. Like, that's it. But, like, those two characters are introduced and you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, there's nothing really that interesting about them the first time you see them, right? Like, we've seen that scene of, like, somebody discovering shit a billion times.
Yeah.
But the scene with David, it's like, oh my god, like, we get so much more of an introduction to his character than anybody else, and it feels genuine and interesting. And, like, if you've watched the Alien films, him being a robot, no, not new. And on top of that, you kind of pinpoint by the way he's dressed and kind of like the way he looks that it's like, oh, he's a robot. Like, if you've watched those movies, you pick up on a lot of that stuff.
Except
which
for dyeing the hair part. The dyeing the hair part was a little odd, but
it's a little odd. The second time through, I almost thought that it was like he had taken off his hair and had put on like new ones, but even that, I have no idea. Still a little strange, but at the same
I
time,
didn't have a problem with that, because I thought it was just more of being vain. Like, he wants
Exactly.
to fit in.
That's true. He
And-
was watching Lost
and-
Arabia at the time he did it, so yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's clearly a child. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I walked out of the movie clearly thinking is, like, a lot of this stuff, the way the plot moves forward through him, makes sense to me because he's clearly a child, and I said this while watching the movie, a child playing at a playground that's very dangerous, but it's not dangerous to him.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of an example for us humans, but it would be like being immune to fire and just running through a house that's on fire.
Or even having no concept of the danger. Maybe you are in danger,
Exactly.
but you have no concept of it.
Exactly.
That stove is burning hot. I don't know it's going to hurt. I'm going to put
Exactly.
my hand on it. It's just like, whatever.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, yeah. And I mean, him being... And then if you've seen Alien, then you know it's the same... Well, close. But a little bit more defined as the same character as the droid in that. With him just being the catalyst for, like, no, we must keep this creature alive, you know. And I forgot who the first person was to get infected in Alien. But I forgot his name. The android was...
Ian Holm.
Oh, no, Hurt. John Hurt was Hurt, right? An alien.
John Hurt was the first one to get hit, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was the face hugger, and then you get...
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the droid was let him on. And it was that same curiosity and drive or, you know, childishness or whatever. And it's the same thing through this movie that actually kept up with it.
But the interesting thing is, I feel like in-home and alien is like malicious. Like if you had to like, his character is malicious through and through, but calculating, right? But malicious. And then you have Bishop, which is passive. So it's the complete opposite. And we're talking about aliens now. Bishop, the robot, and aliens. Then you have David, who's like wonder. Like his whole character is just kind of like, I mean, just the line he has where he goes, oh my god.
Wait a minute, hold on.
I just blanked.
Like, interesting thought, maybe it's kind of stupid, but you've got the first Bishop, which is aggressive, a father figure almost. You've got the passive Bishop in the sequel, which is more of a mother type, and then you've got the wonder of the child.
Exactly. And it's an interesting, like, those are the three, easily, of those movies, the robots are easily one of the more famous characters. Like, especially Bishop. Yeah. Because Bishop, for whatever reason...
Definitely David.
Definitely David.
Yeah.
And it feels like those characters, for some reason, feel not just interesting, but also human, despite being incredibly inhuman. It's really, like, that's the most interesting part of David to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so David's really solid, but I want to, like I said, we've been talking for a while on this one, so I want to keep getting through some of these really big, heavy things. Let's talk a little bit about Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron.
Charlie Theron. Pardon the noise for a second, guys. I'm getting hot.
It's getting hot in here.
So hot. Take off all those clothes.
Take off my Mass Effect hoodie.
I'm gonna drink some hoosicles. That's Brian's shirt right now.
You're gonna drink his shirt?
I took one nerd reference off for a different nerd reference. But yeah, so I want to talk about Charlize Theron because her character for me, after I walked out of the movie the first time, I went, you could have gotten rid of her character entirely.
Yes.
And the movie would have moved the exact same way, except I always say his name wrong. The guy from The Wire. What's his name? The guy that your girlfriend would bang instead of you.
Oh, Idris Elba?
Idris Elba.
He wouldn't have someone to sleep with.
Yeah, the only reason she's there that I can understand is to take him off the bridge so that the two guys can die.
And even then you could have done that.
And
you could have done that in any other way.
There is a spine that they forgot, like they left, which is... I'm annoyed that they left this spine kind of dangling there, but the father-daughter-son relationship of the Waylands and that revelation, it's empty because it never did anything with it.
Because it was.
So, like, instead she's just there as a plot contrivance instead of an actual kind of another triune, like, you know, father, son, like, daughter thing, like a family confusion that kind of populates these movies.
My theory, although I guarantee is wrong for this, but I'll still say it just because this is what it feels like to me. Her character feels like somebody who was in every single draft, and she was always there. This character from day one was always there. Never as the main character, but always kind of how she was. And the drafts, like every script, go through many, 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 many different drafts. I feel like they never changed her. I feel like she stays the exact same way that she did throughout every single draft. So
she's the fixed point in time.
Yeah, the movie changed dramatically around this character, but she never did. She always stays the exact same. So you have really... I'm just trying to brush over his reference.
I was going to try and bring it back.
No, I'm just gonna keep moving.
Don't bring it back. He's already wearing a Doctor Who shirt.
I'm already wearing a Doctor Who shoe.
I win.
Anyhow, so you have the really awkward moments to where she's kind of like flirtatious with the guy and she bangs him, and then she's a hard ass and other things. And instead of shooting him in the face with a gun like a nice person would do, after the guy who looks like Tom Hardy, David gets him sick with an alien, then he goes nuts, and she doesn't let him on the ship, like a good captain would. And so she's strong, and she doesn't let him in, and she burns him. She should have shot him, but she burns him. She could have shot him and then burned him.
Technically, I think the burning was the smarter move, but it's not
you
credit
could have
to
shot
her.
him and then burned him.
Sure.
And he wouldn't have had to... Either way. So she has a lot of these really good things and really good moments, but at the same time, since the movie kept changing around her character, she just feels confused and worthless.
Yep.
So I feel like in earlier drafts, she was very important to the plot, but they just kept moving the rest of the movie forward and just forgot about that character.
Especially all of her interactions with David. They could have fleshed that out a lot more. I mean, she obviously knew that David was her father's son, basically. And so their interactions now, if you think about it and you go back and you're like, okay, their two interactions were kind of like brother sister, but they could have made that a lot harder.
That scene where they're in the hallway, where she just gives him that look, that icy look that could shrivel anyone up.
Oh, and she throws him up against the wall.
Yeah, that scene is worthless. It's a great scene out of context, but without that spine, it just kind of dangles.
Their first conversation of, is like, were there any casualties? You're like, pardon? He's like, is anybody dead? You're like, nope. I'm like, well, then wake him up. Like, they could have made that a lot harder,
And
and a lot more brother-sister, like older sister, younger brother of like, hey, idiot, go fucking wake everybody up.
Yeah.
Like, just calling him an idiot or, anything. Like, just a little bit more to flesh that out would make so much more sense.
Can somebody answer, because I honestly don't remember. Did they mention, is it that Guy Pearce is her father before the reveal?
No.
Is that
No.
Because
they
really
hint at it.
really should have been established. If they had just established that, the movie would have been 10 times stronger just right there.
And that was the worst reveal ever.
Terrible.
That's in my notes.
Can I throw something out there? Guy Pearce doesn't need to be on the ship for that reveal to really matter.
No.
You
didn't need a reveal. That could have just been, my father wanted us to blah, 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 blah.
And I'm just thinking about the original Alien, and that movie has tons of conversations. And then I was like, wait, this movie has dick for conversations.
It really does.
Like, it has zero. Mm-hmm. Like, zero actual human conversations.
Yep.
Like, it's all based on, like, goofy bullshit.
Yeah.
It's only used for dramatic points and then, reveals.
Yeah.
That's it.
All exposition.
That's a lot. I mean, a lot of good sci-fi is conversations over a loose plot. Lots of conversations over very loose plot.
I have a friend who lives in LA who will enjoy this reference if she ever listens to it. It's a lot of spitballing.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of spitballing.
Absolutely.
If my friend is listening, hopefully she'll mention that. But yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Spitballs everywhere.
Yeah, but that's what really good science fiction has, a ton of that. And this one has, like you said, has dick for that. Like, just nothing at all.
Man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing a piss poor job of defending this movie.
You are. But I will say
apologize
this.
to us.
I will say this. Charlize Theron looks great as Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think she does as good of a job as she could with that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't fault her for what that character is, because on paper, that character doesn't make sense. That paper feels like either what Bryan is saying, which is, like, never changed, or an amalgamation of, like, a bunch of other stuff. Like, it is a very confused thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's as if they went through a list of standard characters that a sci-fi needs,
Yeah.
and then they had a lot of these leftover attributes, and they're like, let's put it into Charlon the Ron.
yeah, that works.
Well, she's a good enough actor; she'll fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is she's
it
good.
She's great.
That's
but
maybe
just
what's infuriating.
The character
Yeah.
wasn't.
Is that out of context, those people are all really strong, but it just adds to nothing.
Yeah.
The math is not there.
Yeah. Like, we have constantly 2 + 2 = 3, because it doesn't add to what it should, but it's also under what it should.
My major thing with Charlize Theron for this one, and then we'll move on to what I think we should probably close this out with, which we'll have to talk about the two main characters, because you have to talk about them.
Yes.
Charlize Theron's character is a genius throughout this whole movie, and they ruin her character as much as humanly possible by having her not know to turn left.
Or,
Like, the way she dies is so agonizingly stupid that, like, I just remember watching that. Like, I remember seeing it in the trailers and going, good thing that's not going to kill any of them, because they'll know to turn.
Yep. I would have felt better if, like, a stray piece of debris just crushed her.
Yeah, and
that would have felt better than...
I would have been fine if
Even a little fix where it's like, oh, she was smart enough, but she wasn't ready for the elements.
Yeah, I mean,
her
like...
tendon is sliced or something. She can't roll out fast enough.
Yeah, give it any reason as to why that thing crushed her. If you really want to crush her with a gargantuan spaceship, go for it. But not like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's a proven fact that smart people just aren't good at track and field.
Yeah.
You don't have to be good at track and field to turn left.
Well,
I should know. I can't run.
Track and
Maybe
field.
she was a NASCAR driver and the turn wasn't up yet.
Only reason you turn is
she could only go straight.
the only
Just
reason
20 more feet. Just 20 more feet.
the only reason in track and field that you turn is because the road curves. There's no turn.
There's no curve.
You don't sharply turn.
guys,
You curve.
There were no
In
painted lines.
all honesty, it's our fault. We gave her an open road. It's just wide open. We gave her a blank canvas, and she just had she wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
She wasn't ready.
Or maybe there were so many rocks that we didn't see that were just, she was running down a hallway.
We're trying to really shine a turd here.
Yeah, no, it's really stupid.
It smells really bad.
Let's talk about these main characters. The guy who looks like Tom Hardy, I'm sorry for that actor. None of us learned your name. We just know he's the guy who looked like Tom Hardy. In fact, most of the movie was Bane voices.
Yeah.
Which I'll admit, this movie would have been better if Bane did the voices for it.
Yeah.
For every single
character.
But yeah, these characters that have really interesting things. Like I like the faith subplot. I wish it was more developed, but I like it. I like that it's there. I like his.
It's barely there.
It's barely there, but it could have been really well used. And I really think his alcoholism, I think, should have been there more. They very hint at it very lightly, but they could have really used that. They could have used a lot of things in this thing, and they just kind of...
Especially because he should have been a lot more drunk. I agree with you, Nick. He should have been a lot more drunk in that scene.
And for someone who is essentially the modern Ripley, with all her complexities, she just almost made it.
Thank you for bringing this up, because this was my biggest problem watching it the second time. Because Shaw is supposed to be Ripley 2.0, right?
Right.
I wrote down... The reason why this bothered me was Shaw's supposed to be Ripley, modern version, better version. But Ripley was always right. Always. She always takes the logical, smart approach. And granted, she's not the kindest person, but that's not why you like Ripley. Mm-hmm. You like her because she makes the right choice. And she always makes the right choice for humanity. She always makes the right choice in spite of what could be, the right choice for her. She could survive, but who gives a shit, right?
And it took her 2 movies to deal with motherhood issues, where they crammed all that shit into one movie.
One exposition.
And on top of that...
One conversation.
Yeah.
One sentence, one paragraph of dialogue.
I can't create life.
What about me?
So bad.
What does that mean for me?
But
what does that mean for me?
Nothing.
Do I have your permission to die?
Yes. Mr. Wayne. Do I have your permission to die?
Beautiful voice.
But the whole premise of Prometheus is based on Shaw being wrong.
Yeah,
the entire premise is based on her misguessing something.
And that can be interesting.
Consistently, it could have been, but she's consistently wrong, and then it makes you feel like she's just a fucking idiot. Why should I care about her?
Not only is she consistently wrong, she's bullheaded about it. Like,
exactly.
No, I'm right.
Which makes her not an interesting character to want to follow. You want to follow Ripley because not only is she right, but she's the leader that you want.
But I will say this in defense of the actress. It was the script that had the problem there, not her performance.
Exactly.
She put in the doubt. There was doubt in the character that wasn't written there. There was no doubt in the character.
I agree. And I think she did a great job. I think, honestly, all of the actors in this movie, except for skinny Tom Hardy, it's not even skinny Tom Hardy.
Who you're calling skinny.
Yeah. But, even then, I don't think he did a bad job. But I do think that in the one scene that me and Graham...
His character was written like dick. It was just awful.
It's bad. But in the one sequence that we were talking about, me and Graham, we're when he's talking to David, when David basically poisons him.
One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
And it's great, because it's the one conversation in the whole movie.
It is the theme.
Yes.
It's the theme they decided to go with.
Exactly. But, in that sequence, he should have been drunker. And he should have been acting drunker, because, it doesn't really fit if he's just kind of drunk. It has to fit if he's really drunk.
You have to have, he should have been, if he was crazy drunk, flailing around, and then you've got the cool calm of David, you've got a contrast. You don't have the contrast.
Yeah.
You're missing... It's 2 middle people.
Exactly.
As we saw earlier, we watched something earlier that brought up a really good point of he's going, I failed, I suck. He's only been investigating for 6 hours.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone through everything. He's only been there for not that long, and he's automatically what if he's more weepy and pathetic than fucking Peter Parker?
Yep.
He's been searching for the effing rocks longer than this. He's been searching for the rocks on Earth for decades.
I got to leave the planet for a while.
Potentially,
for 2 years you're traveling in cryostasis, and then you're like, fuck it.
The guy's dead. I just proved that there's life on other planets. I just proved that there's things that can survive and all this stuff that's great, but I can't talk to him, so I'm sad.
I improved our direct creation.
Yep.
I improved that there is no God directly related to us.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to I'm gonna try
Life sucks.
I'm gonna try to weakly defend this.
Oh, good luck.
Good.
I don't.
Oh,
I'm not
please
defending.
do.
Okay, I'm not defending the amount of despair or disappointment from him, but I think that like his whole idea was to talk to them, was to have a conversation. Totally fine, not written in the movie, as far as we know.
We don't get there's
We
no
don't
there's no outlier clues.
Exactly.
Well, he does. He actually does say it.
He does say
He does say it before.
He wants
before he pumps the squid baby into the girl. He says, "I wanted to talk to him," and then
That's not the time for that line.
no.
that's not.
It should have been with David, where he describes why he's disappointed.
Yeah.
I feel like he partially, half-assedly mentions it in the original of, they're describing why they're going.
Yes. But even then,
it's
it's
like, I wanna
it's
ask him why,
half-assedly.
where we can-
It's not once again, not a conversation.
No.
It's them spouting lines at each other and not really kind of getting anywhere.
Yeah. It's a briefing. In
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
we're like, okay, well, I'm only going to listen to half of this anyways, because
Yeah.
it's just made-up science.
Exactly.
About to bone, not a good time to mention my expectations out of this
Yeah.
whole journey. Unless that was boning.
Exactly.
We're boning on a planet. Isn't this cool? That's the
Yeah.
scene.
How about this for a
I mean-
High Club?
And then just to cap this off with these two main characters, I really want to talk about her decision at the end of the movie, because it was something I completely forgot about.
Yeah.
But it's a really kind of interesting to where Nick's girlfriend Siobhan was here and watched it with us, and she brought up the one question that for some reason nobody ever brings up in science fiction when they watch it. When she gets on this alien spacecraft and she's going to go out to the stars and search for where these engineers came from, and Siobhan goes, "What is she going to eat?"
Yeah. And
It's
nobody
an
had.
alien spacecraft, yeah.
Yeah, that's a damn good question. This alien spacecraft has been here for many a year, buried in the dirt. I don't think they have a kitchen.
No. And
If they do, you can't guarantee. I mean, I know our DNA matches, but you can't guarantee.
No.
Here it is. The only thing to eat is the black goo. And she creates on another world. And
Holy
she
crap,
becomes
guys.
and the engineer.
She
Sequel.
She is the queen that you meet in Aliens. She's like, I should not have eaten that burrito on the star over there.
I feel like she's Ron Burgundy, and she's Ron Burgundy in Anchorman, where he's just like, milk was a poor choice, but she's just going, black goo was a poor choice, and it's just like an alien.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope a lot of these people we make fun of never listen to this podcast because we will never get a job.
No.
but all this kind of poking fun at it aside, what does make it frustrating is the promise.
Yes.
The what's hinted at every element, and there's a lot of good. I mean, there's it's beautiful. There's the good things in it. It looks good.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. Yes, it is beautiful.
But it asks traditional sci-fi questions, and it's rated R. It made a lot of money. It was entertaining at a basic level.
Yeah.
So there are those.
Like I said, I don't
the
regret.
graphic nature of it all.
It was
horror
violent,
scenes
yeah.
were
Visceral.
fucking
Yeah.
great
I
and disgusting.
Like the fucking
It's
the
uncomfortable to watch.
abortion that we didn't really talk about at all, to where they cut the squid out of the girl. That's fucking brutal.
it's uncomfortable to watch, but
Yeah.
that's a good sort of uncomfortable.
Especially when she rips it out of her own stomach. That
oh,
I forgot
God, the
about.
umbilical cord.
Oh,
man.
fuck, that was rough.
That was rough.
But then again, the greatest. I'm trying not to make this connection or make this point, but it's way too apparent. It's the best parts of this movie were in all the other aliens.
I mean, yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of like Superman Returns. All the best parts of Superman Returns were in the movie shit. But there were some good parts. Most of them were in the first Superman anyways.
they've been done, and it's not like they were improved. They just look cooler.
Yeah.
Well, they were
That's
very
it.
pretty.
They're very
so very pretty.
God. Yeah. All right.
except
so,
for Guy Pearce's practical.
yeah, whatever.
effects.
But
Not whatever. Those are terrible.
I know they were bad. So I think we're gonna go on to one of me and Brian's favorite parts of our show, which is the lines that we like, which is basically our favorite lines in the movie. We're gonna go around in a circle. Do you want to go first, Graham?
Sure. I mean, I did actually find. You mentioned this before we watched it, and
Yeah, we're
you're
getting
like,
good
well,
at that.
Yeah, we're getting better, guys.
Yeah, and yeah, that was good. I liked that, being told that. And then we also thought, you're like, well, actually, there's which we actually talked about. I was like, there isn't that much dialogue or conversations in it, but I was actually able to come up with one line, of course, being delivered by David, which is sometimes to create life, you have to destroy. Which I'm probably paraphrasing.
That's pretty close, but I liked it better
close.
when Gary Oldman said it in The Fifth Element.
That's why I like it.
That's what the theme should have been, and it was a strong.
Yeah, that
line.
could have been a great stream. It could have been a great theme.
Yeah.
So many could have beens.
So many could have been, but I do agree with your.
Because it's a great set. I mean, that's the first, the second scene of the movie, when the engineer is drinking the goo and then he destroys himself to create life.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they continue to bring that up. I mean, throughout the entire series, that's what it is. It's the destruction of one creature or one thing to start a new life and all this stuff. And that's one theme to continue.
Yeah.
And that would have been great. But I love the line. And, of course, it's delivered by David. And all of his great, sarcastic, witty dialogue moments. Yeah. But he seems to be the only character that has that in this movie.
Or just has depth in general. All
Yeah.
right, John, what do you got?
Well, like we said, they're kind of like, other than some of those lines, there wasn't anything really quotable. But I do have kind of a fun soft spot for you see something and then you say what you saw. So they see the engineer in the hologram, and then they finally see the body, and I was like, "Well, he died." I was like, "Well, duh." that stood out. Like I remember writing that in there because, oh, of course. He died. Yeah.
Wait, his head exploded. Two,
right.
The door fell on his head.
Right. And it's a little thing, but I do tend to notice those where it's like you showed me it, and then they say it, and
show and tell.
Yeah.
I just thought of my line, but Nick, go first. I was so afraid that I was going to have one. I was just going to say the score of the movie was really good, because it was. But no, I actually have one.
I do have a scene as well, but
I have a good one. Nick, go.
All right, well, I'm kind of torn. Two of my favorite characters are... This is kind of spoilers alertsies.
Really? You just spoiled the whole movie.
I know. I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
trying
But
to
did
bother.
we really? This is the hard question.
I know.
Well, you said it was
basically...
really
I've had enough questions.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna say two, just because they were two of my favorite characters, and they die way too early in this movie for who they are. One of them is Milburn, who's You've Got Red on You. I had to look it up just now. That's what I was doing. But he goes, if you're willing to discount 3 centuries of Darwinism, then woohoo. But where's your proof? The way he delivers that line is really hilarious, but it really sums up pretty much what most of the problems with this movie is, which is, so you came out here on a guess? Okay. Thank you. But then the other line, which I think is a much better line, which is Fifield going, I like rocks. I love rocks. And it's clear that you people don't give a shit about rocks. And he just leaves. It's the best line in the whole movie.
That is true.
I completely forgot about that one. My line pales in comparison. But my favorite line in the movie, again, comes from David. And the only reason why it's my favorite line isn't because it's particularly profound or funny or anything like that. But just because of the way it's delivered always kind of skews me out. It's when he looks at the girl and goes, did you have intercourse? And just the way he says it, just oh, mind your business.
Yeah.
did you have relations?
Yeah, because the first time he asked it kind of and then he just point blanks, did you have intercourse? And the way he says it, I almost wish he just said sex, because I think that'd been more comfortable. Because I understand intercourse is the more medical, did it go in and did it, but yeah, and then this was just...
So then say other medical terms in that tone, and then you're equally skeeved. It's the way, it's that performance.
That delivery was just so ugh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roadie.
Wang.
Even if he was
Johnson.
Yeah. And I don't need Michael Fassbender talking about intercourse. I saw Shame. I just don't want to go there ever again.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So maybe that was the reason why they named it that. Because it's shame. Because then after a while, after you think about it,
you feel ashamed every time you
movie.
see him, and you just go, "I've seen."
You can see it from behind.
I feel like... That was better than whatever I was going to say.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know, closing thoughts, everybody?
Let's do. We always do 1 through 5. Let's do 1 through 5 again.
That's fine.
1 through 5. 1 being you hate it, 5 being you love it, you want to marry it, and show it to all of your children. that you have with it?
I'll go first because I have a little bit of one thing that I didn't really get to say, but I think that it's better as a closing thing.
Should we try to cut him off before he says it?
No, don't do it. I would give this movie a 2.5, and it's kind of a reluctant. Fuck it. No, 2.5 to 3, somewhere in that area. It depends on a day that you get me. Yeah, sure. 2.75. That's good. But I think the problem that I had with this movie was, like, I remembered it differently than the first time I saw it. And I remembered the characters not being as remarkably stupid as they were, right? And that's really, every time I thought about this movie, I was like, oh, it's kind of like Alien, where the characters are smart, but it's just an unfortunate situation, right? But it's not. They're a handful of intelligent characters, and we're talking about a small handful at best.
And one of them isn't even a human. He has no soul. As
No,
they
exactly.
point out many times.
I would say he's the only smart character. Everybody else is bullheaded.
Everyone else has moments of clarity, right?
Yes.
And that's not necessarily intelligence, but it's moments of simply seeing it as it is. Alba, I wrote this down, doesn't care about the engineers once he realizes what the planet is, right? Fifield wants nothing to do with it, but unfortunately gets lost, which is also remarkably stupid. So he follows something up that's a moment of clarity with a moment of just immense density. So it bothered the shit out of me watching this movie and just realizing that, like, the reason why so much of this stuff happens is because the characters are dumb, which doesn't make for an interesting movie. It simply just makes for a movie. And it just kind of bothered me.
Okay.
So
So-
a 2.75, but like I said at the beginning of the podcast, defending it because of my childhood.
Fair enough. John?
Well, when I first saw it at the theater, I gave it a 3 out of 5 for my own thing. Because I was like, okay, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. And then it was brought up that the planet that ship crashes on is not the one that they go to in Alien. And all these connections just aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2.5 for me. I'm middle of the road on it. It's just, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if they had dared to, like, connect it, fully connect it,
But if you do that, you can't have sequels.
that's the thing.
Yep. It's
And that's
bullshit, but
that's
that
why
is-
that's why it's 2.5 instead of 3, because it does diminish the enjoyment. Because like watching it a second time, I'm like, well, that's not the same planet. I'd like to see the same planet. I want to see the connector to Alien.
And you want to see him die in his chair with his chest broken up, and you want to
Oh,
see
yeah.
these things.
Those things
Yeah.
pop in my head, and it distracts from the themes that they wanted to go for. So it's
Yep.
just it's there. It was enjoyable, but middle of the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go 2.5 as well. I mean, here's the thing. I would definitely, if you haven't seen it, definitely see it. If you've never seen an Alien or Aliens or AVP or any other of the series, and this is the first, definitely see this movie.
See it first. If you've never seen all of them, would you recommend seeing this first?
No, you see AVPR first.
Well, then, okay, that I didn't even want to get into that. If you think of the AVPR, why they set up the whole reason of, because then they
Yeah,
technically,
two
so we're not even
different things,
gonna,
right?
Yeah.
But if somebody was like, watch Alien or Prometheus first, and this is the first one that I'm going to see.
I would totally see this first. If you haven't
I
seen
agree.
anything else, see this first. It's really cool, but then just keep in mind everything that we've talked about. It's not an actual sequel. It does a very good job of explaining things in which way, and maybe it's a different universe, maybe it's a different planet, maybe there's no real correlation. This is just a completely separate story line.
Yeah.
You know, with that in mind. But if you have seen the others, if you have seen, you know, Alien, Aliens, all this stuff, it's not. It is absolutely in no way, like, nothing is the same. It's not a prequel whatsoever. And then only in that way can you be like, yeah, it was alright. If there's no correlation whatsoever, if this is just a completely separate, by itself, separate movie, then
You may enjoy it more.
I could totally.
without
I could
the baggage.
forgive a hell of a lot. You know, all this other shit. You know, if it wasn't for this trying to be, but not really trying to be, but being very too good at being not a prequel to Alien,
That wasn't even close to a sentence.
right? Which, so for that,
This wasn't even close to a prequel.
yeah, exactly.
Ah!
But it
Damn,
was.
burn.
Right?
Maybe. We're asking a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions.
But yeah, I'm just saying, if it weren't for that, if it weren't for it being so good at not being prequel, it would be so much better. And I could forgive a lot of the plot stuff. I could forgive a lot of the character stuff. You know, because it's like, yeah, well, it's a sci-fi movie. Okay, I get it. You have dumb characters, but it just is too good of a job at being a bad prequel.
Fair enough. I'm gonna land at the highest rating, which I did not think was gonna happen. But I think part of my reasoning for giving as high as I am is just because it was an R-rated science fiction movie that did well, and I have to have a ton of respect for that.
Yep.
Even if it isn't that great of a movie, it still did enough. You don't make that much money on only people seeing it one time.
I agree.
You just don't do it. People had to go back for second, thirds, whatever, because the genre is too niche to get that many people to blanket go out and see it one time.
And I'd argue, like, science fiction's hard. It's tough.
Science fiction is a tough thing to do well. Very tough thing to do. And a very tough thing to do a prequel to a movie that came out in the 70s, as what was proven by... Did it come out in the 70s or 80s?
70s.
70s.
Or
Yeah. Really, it's late 70s.
Late 70s.
Okay, well, either
It's like
way. So it's really
79.
tough to try
Yeah.
to do a prequel to a movie that came out like that, as proven by all the prequels to the Star Wars movies. Like, it's not an easy thing to do,
No.
and not necessarily one that you should do, as proven by all these prequels. That being said, I think it did a fine job being just a kind of run-of-the-mill sci-fi movie. So I would say 3.5.
Okay.
And that feels high, but at the same time, when I sit down and watch it, the
Yeah.
production value's through the roof. They put their hearts and souls
Yeah.
into this movie, and they did a really good job showing it. The performances are good across the board. No one's a shitty actor in
No.
this thing, and you get a lot of really shitty actors in sci-fi movies.
Yep.
Really shitty. The performances are all solid, and the people with the characters that they were given do a good job with those characters they were given. They're given shitty characters, but they do what they can with it in pretty much every way. So everything that they can do, they do as well as they can with what they're given. And they're
Yep.
given kind of a mishmash script by Damon Lindelof, which I condemn a lot, but at the same time, he wouldn't be where he was if he's not good at something. And Lost was, I love it. And like, there's just so many things that it could have been great, which is why I won't go to 4 or 5, but 3.5.
That's fair.
I think that wraps it up in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And even your description that could even move me back up to 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I mean,
But, like,
after
so
I
I'm
was
not going to change my mind because
Yeah.
the inconsistency
Yeah,
really bothers me.
They're really bad, but I think it. Yeah,
Also, with this movie making a lot of money, I hope that means that more sci-fi will be made, because I genuinely love science fiction movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hoping that, at the very least, good science fiction will be made.
Looper.
Well, and
Yeah,
I hope
exactly.
that this
Shut
is
up,
the
Graham.
beginnings of a surge. Like, you've got
Exactly.
you've got Prometheus, and then now you've got Looper. You got these little tricklings popping in. Hopefully it becomes a
means-
pattern.
Exactly.
It's the start
A
of like
good pattern.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yes.
a good pattern, because there are rumors of a Doctor Who movie, and not just rumors. They're crewing up for it right now. I have confirmation that I cannot tell you, but it is happening, and that's bad news.
Are we talking about American?
Oh yeah, it's happening. And on
Okay.
that note,
more like Doctor What, because we don't know grammar.
Yeah.
stop it.
Doctor, huh?
Just turn it off.
Doctor,
All right.
no, you didn't.